For my FMP, I wanted it to have three different things. I wanted it to be fun, I wanted it to have meaning, I wanted it to be different. So in doing this, I decided I was going to choose my own brief. I didn't want a client to restrict me in the ways that they wanted to restrict people. I wanted to set my own restrictions, I wanted to set my own challenges, but I also wanted to build my project the way I wanted to build it. I wanted to express the opinions that I have in the way I wanted to express them. And also, choosing a brief, it doesn't mean as much, because you're setting someone else's standards and then you're putting them yourself into the brief, into the project. Whereas I wanted my project to reflect my own methods and my opinions. So by doing this, I decided I was going to choose 4 different segments that are currently affecting people around the world. I was going to choose racism, gun control, poverty, and healthcare. Now racism, it affects a lot of people. Whether you like it or not, it's acknowledged, but it's not acted on. And by doing the project the way I've done it, it voices my opinions, but I also wanted to raise awareness with it. With gun control, it's a massive thing in the media right now. It's always been there, it's just not been publicised as much. But now, especially in America, we're hearing about school shootings, about arguments going on for guns, against guns, and how people need to be armed or not armed, remove situations, add situations. It's going on. But what I wanted to do was voice my opinion in a different way, so give it that artistic way. Instead of people just arguing back and forth with words, I wanted it to show, I wanted to express myself through art, model something, animate something, bring the problems to life, and then show people what people can do. Healthcare, it's a very expensive, especially in America. People being punished for being ill, and it doesn't make sense to me. So I wanted to make something that sort of expressed that feeling of why are people having to pay for being ill, for diseases that they get. I've seen some of the prices for like just rooms for an overnight stay, and it goes into the thousands, and that's ridiculously expensive, especially for someone who's young and trying to get a job or coming out of education into the real open world. So I wanted to try and express my views through an artistic way again. And finally, poverty affects so many people in so many different ways, whether it's lack of sanitation, lack of water, lack of electricity, lack of homes, basic things that we have that these people just haven't had or may never had in their life because of them being so young or being in such areas that they don't have these necessities. So for my project, I had the one outcome of express my opinions, trying not to be biased, but also trying to show people my opinions in a different sort of way, instead of just using words and having that argument back and forth. I wanted to express myself in a nicer looking way, so it doesn't seem hostile when I'm taught. If I was to talk to someone, I'd maybe raise my voice or try and push that onto them. With this, I can model it, express my feelings through my models, and then show people what my opinions are, and try and raise awareness, and also help people relate, or try and get people to relate to my project too. And my chosen method for my project was model and then animation. Now I had many different ways to do this, but I stuck with 2, and then I had to choose between the 2. My initial project was going to be that I had the 4 segments that I chose, that I've mentioned, and then they were going to be on a planet, and there was going to be a car driving around the planet, going to each of these segments, and then having these segments blown up on top of the world, sort of like the British Gas advert where the driver goes from planet to reach the homes, but just on a larger scale with different segments on. And then the segments may include like the White House, or rundown towns, like flooded lakes, maybe like just like dirty water, a lot of different things. And then my second idea for this was to do sort of the same concept, but on like a road. So the car is winding through a road, and it's got different things to the right and left of it, maybe different signs popping up. Now, for reasons that I found later on in my project, I decided to choose my second option and go for the road, as doing the Earth, so having to bend my models around the circle, like the spherical object, was really difficult for the details that I put into my project. So I decided to make it easier for myself and to be able to finish, I would put it on the road and then add details to the roads, like lights and stuff like that, to make it look nicer, basically. Add some aesthetics to it. Now, for my research, it was hard to get the primary evidence, because I couldn't go out and take photos of some of the places, because, well, I had ideas for like the White House. I couldn't go obviously to America and take photos of the White House. I didn't have things to access, so I decided I was going to go on Google Trends and gather some data through that. So here's the racism one. Now here we see it's affected like massively during like midway through 2017, and then it's just gradually lowered, and now it's spiked back up during this month, but still it's lowering again. Now that's what I was trying to point out before. It's acknowledged, but it's not. It doesn't have much action taken against it. There are obviously groups that are trying to do this, but people see it, and then they notice it, but then they don't do anything about it. So what I wanted to do with my models was try and do something about it. Same with the gun control. See, now last year, about this time last year, it wasn't mentioned much at all. It wasn't mentioned, and then suddenly the spikes as shootings went on, and then again it goes down, and then during this year, during some of the shootings, as they've been more frequent, that they've spiked massively, and fortunately the shootings have gone down and are less frequent, but it's still being noticed. Now, for poverty seems to be always mentioned. It seems to be above 50 all the time, apart from, yeah, still 50 here. It seems to be above 50 all the time. So this means people are actually acknowledging it, people are seeing it, and people are trying to do something about it. So with my project, I can add to this. I can try and raise awareness in a different sort of way. Instead of asking for money or posting adverts, I can express my way through like social medias and stuff like that. Same with healthcare. Healthcare's again been mentioned massively during like this time last year, and then it's gradually gone down during the start of this year, but it still stayed like relative, like at the 50s, low 60s. So it's still being mentioned again, like I say, but still being acknowledged. It's just, again, people aren't taking as much action as they should be against this. As here in the UK, we get free healthcare. So yeah. So moving on to my website, I did do quite a bit of research. As I said, I put this down and then I went to the trends and I was looking at some statistics. So I found this one for gun violence was really shocking for me, because currently this year the total number of incidents is 16,716, which for me that was like a big number. I just didn't expect that. Same with the deaths and the injuries. Now, what shocked me here was the unintentional shooting was 493. That's almost 500 unintentional shootings. That's ridiculously high. So this is why I wanted to raise awareness against it and sort of express myself to the point of why are these going on? What's happening? And then moving on to this one, it's Americans, like this one's based in America, so Americans killed by guns from 2014 to 2017 is 56,000, and comparing that to like Australia, it's a drastic amount. And then moving on to like 2017 and then early 2018, it's like 15,000. So in the past like 4 years, let's say, 15,000 has come from just like this year to like mid last year. And then the children one as well, mass shootings 1,333, and then on school grounds as well, as we've seen recently, there's been 8. So in doing this research, it affected my project massively, because it was so centered around America, and a lot of the media portraying all these school shootings in America, and all the gun control and yes or no, for or against, are all going in America. I decided I was going to add the White House in, as it's where the president is the big symbol for America. So I wanted to add that in, so it related to the media, so related to the public and my target audience. Moving on to poverty. Now, as I said with poverty, it was the living conditions, like lack of electricity, lack of stable or even any homes or like shelter, the food and the sanitation. So I wanted to create something that was going to try and get some aspects of that, or all the aspects of that, into a model. By doing this, by doing the research, I discovered different shanty towns. There was lots in Brazil, and I was trying to gather inspiration from there and view how they were structured. So a lot of them were piled on top of each other and just blocked, sort of like Jenga blocks or like Tetris. So they were just stacked, and then they had different like components on them. So they had like air conditioning, but like brief and very like fan like at the back, and then very unstable bottoms that were just resting on platforms. It didn't seem safe at all, and it didn't seem viable for people to live in. So I wanted to try and reflect my models to try and reflect that and try and show people how people lived. Again, with the lack of electricity, I wanted to, maybe my animation was going to be flickering lights or homes without lights on, or destroyed lampposts and stuff like that. I was originally going to do like a lake or like a river or some type of water stream going down through this town, and then texturing this or changing the colour to darker, sort of murky sort of waters. But when it came to adding fluids, as I've discovered in previous projects, the render times are so long, especially adding to the original render times of my actual animations and project. It would have taken much longer and taken up too much time for something that wasn't as necessary to add in, and how I could prove my points in other ways that were more time effective and clearer to an extent as well. So I decided I wasn't going to do that, as it was much easier for my project to be built upon without having fluids in there, and just try and sort of ruin the whole aesthetic of it as well. So moving on to healthcare as well, I was discovering that there weren't many complaints because people weren't speaking up about it. So there were a lot of articles on it, and there was a lot of data on it, and how people articles were mentioning different healthcare rates, maybe like how hospitals are going to are being abandoned, shut down, or how there are only major hospitals now, and how people are becoming jobless because of it, and how people are being affected by it, and how younger people especially, or younger people and the elderly are being affected by it, mostly because these people are moving out of education into jobs and not having that financial stability yet. Same with like elderly people, they're moving from jobs into like retirement, and then maybe like homes, like nursing homes and things like that, and they're still paying for these things. So I wanted to try and address that situation through a different sort of means. So I tried to go for, it was more of a comedic thing, as I wanted to make it fun, but it also portrayed that serious aspect of, well, money is destroying these hospitals, they're destroying all these people, and how it's affecting lives. So moving on to problem solving, as I've already mentioned, I did suffer through some problems. A lot of them were mainly through 3D and animating, and how some things just weren't going my way. So moving into 3D, as you can see, this is my full model with the working animation, which I'll show you the video later on. I struggled through a lot of things. So if we go to the hospital here, I was using Mass Effects mainly for this, and that's why the lines and then the sections are cut off like that, because that's how the building will be destroyed. I suffered a lot from the animation not working, so the Mass Effects would either crash a lot, and all the segments weren't breaking, or it was the hitbox was so far out that I couldn't even have it lay on the plane, because the hitbox was so large that as soon as I started the animation, it would just destroy itself. So I decided I was gonna remove Mass Effects completely and then see what was actually happening. So I had to go into the options and reset my X forms, and just reset my forms for the whole building. I even did it for the planes and then the $sign too, just to make sure that everything was working and everything was to the scale. And then I tried adding Mass Effects again, and that sorted out the hitbox problem, but it didn't sort out the segments problem, the crashing problem. So I just decided I was going to reduce my segments to 7 segments instead of, I think it was at 15 originally, and because the segments were there were so many segments that and because the scene was quite large and they had a lot of detail in it, it just wasn't being able to handle it. So I decided I was going to reduce the segments to much larger segments and see if that worked. And after I finished the animation, and when it got to that point, it did work. The Mass Effects, it was destroyed. Now I did have the problem with my $sign just going through it like this. It would just sit in it and not destroy it. And the problem I was having here was it wasn't baking. The animation was not baking when I was pressing bake. So again, I redid the $sign and I redid the animation multiple times. Originally I thought it was because it was on the floor, it was on the plane, and the videos I'd seen to try and stop this problem, they were all like balls being catapulted through a wall of some kind. So I decided I was going to do a different animation and see like the $sign sort of be catapulted onto it, and it still wasn't working. So I again reset the X form for this to make sure the hitbox was perfect, and I just redid the Mass Effects a couple of times, redid it in different different angles and stuff, and eventually just came to the point where it wasn't the baking, it was just the animation in general. I just needed to change it a couple of times, and it eventually it worked itself out. So that worked out pretty well for me. I'm glad that worked. I did have problems again with the car as well, because I was using Curve Editor, but I wanted to add like a noise pattern onto the car, so it looked like a realistic sort of bobbing, like, because it's a cartoon car, it's a low poly model. I wanted it to sort of like have a little bounce, like it was moving, but it was bopping as well. But every time I tried to add a noise like modifier onto my curve, it would just remove the modifier completely. It's the same happened with the lights on the Omni-light, should I say. Every time I added the noise modifier to it, it would just delete it completely. With this, I had to go into the dope sheet instead and add it through there, and then to manually, as you can see at the bottom here, I had to manually animate the flickering, so it didn't get that more of a natural sort of animation to it. But it also it taught me different ways to taught me more about animating and trying to get that consistency, as well as making it flicker a bit like it would in like a film or like a game would do, as you'd see. So with this, I just decided, instead of adding the noise modifier, as it went round the corner, I'd sort of add the bop myself. But yeah, all in all, it didn't really turn out that the bop was needed, because the camera is directly into into Max itself. So moving on to this was supposed to be this is supposed to be my racism sort of statue, I guess you could say. Now this is a billboard at the back, and then this hand. Now originally I was planning on texturing at the start of this project, but I then decided, because time and as well as my ability as well, I didn't want to sort of ruin my I didn't want to ruin it. So the hand originally was supposed to be like multiracial, so it would have the different races like sort of imprinted on it to show unity and people were standing together. And the billboard at the back was going to have like Martin Luther King's speech, like the classic "I Have a Dream" speech, or like Malcolm X's interview speech, so on, because the frame is like 5 seconds. But the problem I had with that was I was going to add the video in After Effects. Now, what I found out about, so let me just change this back. What I found out about my animation was, as it goes around the car here, so this is where the video would play. Right here, the hand is in the way, so I originally thought I just take the hand out and then re-render it, because the rendering times of the whole project itself is just ridiculously long, and even that 5 second animation takes about half an hour to render. It just wasn't time effective, so I found out that you can add a bitmap texture to it, which I can then make the video. So I'd go into the compact material editor, I'd grab my material, and then I just make it a bitmap. And then what that'd do is it would allow me to then just change it, just download the video, make sure it was an AVI, because I had problems with that as well. It had to be an AVI or an MPEG, not an MP4, which I found out. And then once it was imported and it was the AVI, I just put it into the material, and then I just dragged and dropped it on, and then it came up with the billboard, which was really a relief for me, because my main point of this statue was to show unity, but then also raise awareness for it. And not having that speech at the back, just having that blank billboard, really threw me off, because I really wanted that it was really important that was there. And fortunately enough, I found out that you can actually put that in without having to like edit it in through After Effects or other software. Now moving back to my website, I did some like quick technical drawings and perspectives on the three. Same with the I did then block them out. Fortunately, some of these didn't look didn't come out at the end like they look here, because I took a bit more inspiration. This one, I just really enjoyed making this. But yeah, like the base here is the same here. So what I did was I just grabbed the base and then just worked from it. So there's still the same base here. This top part here is pretty much the same. Same with the back. I changed this because it was a pain to add, because in the original White House, this back part here it's attached to here, but then this cylinder here is also attached to here. So when I was trying to attach this part, this part here to the actual base of it, there was gaps like at the very top here, where like you can even see here there was a gap, and it was really frustrating because it just made it look so unnatural. So I eventually lined everything up. I completely cut the cylinder in half and then stuck it into the base of it, and then just attached everything, and then attached points and then sort of stitched them together. I changed this look because in the original White House it's actually that sort of like hexagon octagon shape. And then this bit here, that I didn't realise at first, but it goes all the way up to here. So these three are all connected, and then the stairs going down. The stairs originally were really big, hard for me, like a big problem, because the angle that they're at. Every time I did the stairs, they would have a look like they would like construe themselves into a weird direction, or the angles just weren't right. Like I couldn't get them lined up properly. I eventually used the stair the stair shapes in 3D to do like the actual stairs and then the railings too, which really helped me out a lot. It saved me there. The shantytown was by far my favourite thing I made in throughout this project, and maybe even in 3D itself, because I just had so much fun exploring what I could do, because there was no limitations with this one. Like with the White House, I was going off different perspectives of the White House. I was following it. I was following the pictures like directly, whereas with this I was grabbing inspiration from different images from different like shantytowns, and I was just pulling them together and doing this. So here and on this side, so I went for a more industrial look. So that's why you see like the barrels here, these like the structure there, so like scaffolding, and then like it's just mainly like metal. Whereas on this side, I went for a more woodenly, like cardboard box sort of look, where everything is attached, like everything's boarded up here, here's the boarding, and everything just seems a lot softer on this side and then a lot hardened on this side. So this seemed more like industrious, and people have spent time putting this together, where this one seems like it's fresh and new, and people haven't expanded on it yet, and they haven't been there for long. And then I wanted the cell blocks, like the cell block sort of apartments at the very back, because in the classics, in the films and in games, when you go to like America, the classic sort of rundown homes are always these big cell blocks that have like terrible windows, terrible balconies, terrible doorways. They're filled with like graffiti and just overall just this like distraught, rundown, dull places. And I wanted that sort of look here, so I went for just the classic, just block, plain, dull. Tried to make everything just so uninviting that you just wouldn't want to be there. Moving on to my presentation now. I had a couple of ideas of how I wanted to make it. So I had my idea show, which was going to be shown there. I thought of like live streaming the like sort of maybe the creation of it, but then it didn't make sense because it wouldn't be targeting my audience anyway. I'd be doing the raising awareness part, but it would be completely like invalid anywhere else. I decided social medias, because I found a lot of my opinions like of the people on Twitter and Reddit. A lot of people post on like subreddits such as like politics, even like political humor. The subreddits there, and then even on like pictures, art. A lot of people post their own views there, and then in the comments as well, you read people's opinions and you gather like information through there. ArtStation, for me, ArtStation was more a show-off sort of thing rather than a express my opinion sort of place. So for there, it would be showing off my model, not the meaning behind it for me. Same with Sketchfab, be the exact same thing, just for the model. YouTube, it is going to be a video anyway when I render it out. I was going to originally make it of a GIF, but due to Wix, it loops anyway. You can make it loop, so it just seemed unnecessary to put it in both YouTube and then make it a GIF. So it's going on YouTube anyway, and then it'll be on my website, as it says here, Wix website. Put it on my Wix and then show it off there. And then what I wanted to do was just have it on a big screen, have the video looping, and then I'd upload it through my own social media accounts onto Twitter and Reddit after when I've finalized it and everything. Now here's just the full rundown of it, only 35 seconds. So as the car comes, you got the flickering lights for the animation there. It turns round, the guns pop up from the White House, and then here comes the dollar sign destroying the hospital. And then finally, originally there's going to be the GIF at the back, which shows my fucking speech, and then it stops. So that's my video on that. So for me, the key decisions of my project were how I was going to express my opinions through an artistic way, how I was going to make my models clear enough that people would understand what was going on, so I didn't need to explain them, but also that they looked good enough for people to actually notice as well. And then also making sure I didn't offend anyone, but I also expressed my opinions well enough that people take notice as well. For me, I think I've like successfully done what I set out to do. I decided I was gonna try and test myself and create something I have never created before. I've never created something on such a large scale. It's always been like a weapon or like a vehicle or like a character. I've never done something that was so big, like physically, as well as have such a big meaning behind it as well, and sort of express myself through models rather than just by using words. I did change a lot of things during my project. As you saw for the pre-production, I did, instead of going for quite a simple, like simplistic type things, I decided I was going to go for much more detailed, a lot of things going on in my models, because I wanted to have fun. Like I say, I wanted to create something that I hadn't created, and I think I set out and did that pretty well. And I am a bit let down with myself that I didn't get to do the world that I had pictured originally. I would have loved to have done that. That would have been amazing for me, because it added a more, like, a wider view of everything. Like, just putting it on a road, it gives you, it just allows you to see everything. But with the world, it shows it on such a larger scale. It's adding to everything. It's showing how big these problems actually are, and then the car would look so nice going around on that loop rather than going in a circle. I mean, in a square, it'll look good going around in a circle and in the loop. But overall, I am glad that even though my alternate option wasn't my favourite option, I am glad it worked out. But like I say, like, because I added these, like, small details like the wood and then the lines and stuff like that, making them bend to fit the shape of this, like, spherical shape, it just wouldn't have worked and would have took me much longer to create. It just wouldn't have been worth that time, and possibly not being able to finish the project. Whereas this way, I got to finish the project, my message was still clear, and it still looked for me good enough. So, and overall, I think I've presented it pretty well. Like I say, I maybe could have done some like filling in here. So when the cars are going around here, fill in the gaps here and here, and make sure everything is visible. But overall, just seeing the buildings and the animations themselves, it kind of draws into that fact rather than distracting you with anything on the outside too, which I liked. I preferred that. So yeah, that was my fan animation project. I hope you enjoyed, and bye.